Good evening. Good evening, friends. Today we will learn something about the structure and function of epithelial cells. Yesterday we have seen the different type of the tissues and also the connective tissue, etc. and their biological role is concerned. And today we will learn the structure and a specific function of the different epithelial cells in detail. So, epithelial means above a layer. That is the meaning of this particular sentence is concerned. Means the tissue is a group of similar cells that function into together to form the specialized activity, and there are four kinds of the tissue: epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, nervous tissue, and also the fluid connectivity tissue. So these are all the basic type of the tissues which covers the different parts of the body, and also the blood is also one of the tissues which circulates throughout the body to carry the oxygen and also to bring back the carbon dioxide which is produced by the different cells. So what's an epithelial cells? So it is consisting largely of entirely the closely packed cells with little extracellular material, and cells are arranged in continued sheets, and it's also called as the apical surface, or the lowermost surface is called as the basal surface, or which forms the support. And the particular epithelial cells are avascular in supply, but they do have the nerve supply. And these type of the cells lie on the connective tissue layer and the basal lamina, or it's also called as the basement membrane. So it has a high capacity of the renewal, means regrowth, or the mitotic rate. So the function of these tissues is protection, especially the skin filtration is taken up by the excretory organ, kidney. Then lungs do have the capacity of exchange of the oxygen inside and carbon dioxide outside to purify the blood. And certain glands do have a specialized functions, secretions, and absorption is taken up by the large intestine cells. The salivary glands, etc., do have the secretory properties. So, as we have studied, we have seen that there are different types of the epithelial tissues. One is the squamous epithelial cells, where the cells are flat, hexagonal, or having the extensive diffusion. And the cuboidal cells are cube in shape and important in secretion and also in case of the absorption. The example of this type of the cells are the cells of the intestine, because these are having cuboidal shape, and the columnar shape of the cell is also another characteristic. These are tall and cylindrical, whereas the transitional epithelial cells can readily change these shape, etc., when it is stretched. So, depending upon the number of layers, so simple epithelium, then stratified epithelium, then pseudostratified epithelium. These are the classification based on number of the layers present. In single layer cells, the osmosis, filtration, secretion, and absorption usually are occurring through the simple sites like the diffusion, then also sometimes the exchange program, and sometimes the carrier-mediated mechanism. So the stratified epithelium contains two or more type of the cellular layers, and pseudostratified epithelium is another category of the cells which contain a single layer of mixture of cell type, and these have got a stratified appearance, but they are all having the only one layer. So here you can see that this one is the most simplest type of the tissue, and it is called as the epithelial. So this is composed of one or more layer, maximum two layers, covering the external side surface of the entire body, and by this time you are able to recognize it as the skin. And the cells are arranged very close to each other with very less extracellular material. Just like the classical example you can remember is the superficial epithelial tissue cells. The epithelium is separated by underlying connective tissue which provides it with the different type of the nutritious material. So, what is the function of this epithelial cell? Number one, it is a protective coat to the skin which forms the outer covering up of the body and is composed of epithelial cells. And these cells protect the underlying cells from the drying up of, and sometimes the cell may get injured also, and there may be mitochondrial this microbial contamination which may cause wound and wound aggregation, then also which is leading to the inflammation, and the body has to take care of it. And these epithelial type of the cells also help for absorption and water in case of intestine and also in kidney. And they were involved in elimination of the unwanted cells like the dead epithelial cells, then aged, uh, especially red blood cells, white blood cells, and almost all the residues of the hormones. So this epithelial cells has got an important program or the function of elimination of the waste products, and subepithelial tissues perform secretory action. This is also another important type of the protection with the epithelium cell is emerged out as one of the covering, and these tissues do perform as the sometimes they do take the chance of surviving somewhere else where they want to live. So some of the epithelial cells perform secretory functions. So they secrete a variety of the biological substances such as sweet. So the special taste of the sweet, etc., it will be processed through the nasal cavity to the brain and the human usually, and also sometimes the animal being get attracted towards such pleasant smell, they entire everything in a single day, which should not be done. And in case of liver, certain secretory function they have got, and apart from them, they have got the variety of the biochemical reaction, and also some of the biochemical studies they took them. Then they secrete a variety of biochemical substances which are sweat, saliva, then mucus and enzymes. So it is not a simple thing, but If you put our mind really, it becomes very was astonishing. See here, this is the photo of the simple epithelial cells. So it forms a lining up of the body, cavities, and the ducts. So it also found in the secretory absorptive surfaces usually. So the basis of squamous cell modification into the cells, different type of the cells are they are formed in the India, but the of course it is very simple epithelium, and this do contain the stratified cuboidal epithelium and stratified squamous cells, simple squamous cells, then simple cuboidal cells, then super columnar epithelial cells. So this is the first category, whereas the stratified epithelium and the same thing, it also holds good with the stratified cuboidal cells. It is the shape of a cell or the dancer which in which the neck is turned. It is not the learn not like that. It is scientifically it is explained as the last photo. There are some of the tissues have got embedded in some of the cocoons, etc. So the classification of these type of the cells are the squamous epithelial cells, then cuboidal epithelial cells, columnar epithelial cells, then ciliated epithelium, then glandular epithelium. So it's very easy to remember these such things. So the squamous cell replication takes a lot of time. Then columnar epithelium or ciliated myoepithelium is another type of the thing which need to be properly, if you have to study it. Then different types of the epithelial cells. So this is one student of at least one student has to see this particular data, or else they lose a lot. So compound simple epithelium is the composed of single layer of cells resting on a basement membrane. I think the another photo you may understand, like the basement membrane is there and also epithelial cells are there. So the compound epithelial cells are the cognitive behavior type of the treatment. The it's also okay, but let you think. Oh, and coming to the lecture, only the cells of the deepest layer rest on basement membrane. So the upper plate we can easily carry, and once the queen is died, the animals have got such a doubt and they will suffer. Then squamous epithelial cells means the apical surface, then every type of the directions of these muscles should be unique of each other. So here that's they are put as the basolateral surface, basic plus lateral surface. Here, in 1885, he donated it to the person who is a eminent scholar. Cuboidal epithelium, as the name indicates, there structure is very cuboidal. Yes, of course, we cannot see all those nuisances, but we are producing the all those things and tell a single person to take care of the broomstick. That's what I have been to say. Is then the third one is columnar epithelium cells. The columnar epithelium is composed of a single lower or slender, elongated. So coming to the further lecture part, now we are in the epithelial tissues, which is classified into simple epithelium and compound epithelium. Then once again, next tissue is the squamous epithelium. It is thin, flat cells with prominent nuclei. They have got. It is also known as the pavement membrane, which forms the delicate lining up of the buccal cavity, alveoli of the lungs, proximal tubule of the kidneys, blood vessels, and covering the skin and the tongue. So it produces the body from mechanical injury, dry, and invasion of the germs. So it also helps in filtration by forming selectively permeability to the cell. And cuboidal epithelial cells, once again, they are also having similar type of the structures, and also the function is of course different. And you can see in the screen that they are of the intestine, tubular part of the nephron as the microvilli. Then columnar epithelial cells are located at the base, and the nuclei is under the base. So where they are present means they are mainly involved in secretion and absorption, maybe in the intestine. So the fourth is the ciliated epithelial cells, and they do contain columnar cells where numerous duplicate type of the cells, hair cells, etc. Then they are called as the cilia and called as the ciliated epithelial cells. So their function is to move particles or mucus in a specific type of the direction over the epithelium. So this is present in trachea of the windpipe, bronchioles of the respiratory tract, kidney tubules, and fallopian tubule of oviduct. So the prominent cells here are the ciliated epithelial cells. The glandular epithelial cells, as the name indicates, they are present in the glands, especially which secrete chemical substances at the epithelial surface. So these type of the cells are having epithelial folds inward to form multicellular gland which line the gastric glands, then pancreatic tubules, and also the intestinal glands. Compound epithelial cells are the one which consists of more than one layer, and these structure of these are little complicated when compared to the simple epithelial cell. So more than two layers always it's called as the compound epithelial cells. So the examples are of the cells of buccal cavity and pharynx. So here you can see that the striated muscles, smooth muscles, cardiac muscles, then the neurons, which do also contain several type of the different structures, and we'll see it in the neurology. So the connective tissues are having lot of different classifications like adipose tissues, then areolar tissue, then compact bone tissue. So it's also one of the things that the fractures, etc., may become more, but it is reduced. The reason may be due to multifactorial, and as usual, one can say that it is a combined effect of the tobacco and also the arecanut. Then simple squamous epithelial cell. Squamous cells are always the basement membranes do contain the connective tissue and also simple squamous cells. So even though they look like the complex cells, but we can classify under the category simple squamous cells or the epithelial cell. So here the cells are large but quite thin in nature and have a prominent protruding nuclei and formed in the lines of peritonitis, peritoneal cavity, and also the intestinal lining of the this type of cells are very rare in the body, but they are present in the people of the Western Ghats, where which lot of plants are there to graze for the animal, and it was difficult for the people of Chennai, and the two chief ministers they have done a great work, and where it is just like looking as a wonderful art, but it is required as well as the glomerulus of the kidney and the walls of the capillaries are in lungs. So here this is the simple cuboidal cells. So that it has got the basement membrane on which the connective tissue is there, and these are all simple cuboidal cells. And these simple cuboidal cells are also present in the mammalian kidney, and each duct is lined by simple cuboidal epithelial cells, or you record it and send it. So whose nuclei are quite prominent, this type of epithelial cells is under other than the simple squamous cell. So non-ciliated simple columnar cells are also there, like they do contain the very microvilli and mucous goblet cells. Then the third cells are absorptive cell, the same living mammal human beings. Intestine or the sometimes as per the experimental eligibility is there. We can procure one goat only, that's not sufficient. Then see, these are the simple columnar epithelial cells. So this is the cross section of the small intestine and the tail, vertical and physical. Correct? The black arrow is a secondary to 9 and there will be the arrow. So the ciliated cuboidal simple cells do contain the liver, then mucous in goblet cells, the so the other example is So many, almost all the rickets are like that only. This is will escape. Then uterine tube also do contain squamous, this type of the cells, which is the ciliated diffuse cell. So epithelium of the intestine. Then whenever the ovoids comes to that position, then it should be having life, and whenever she gets the hungry, then any of the simple material can be solved. So this is the photo of pseudo stratified killer column epithelium or the trachea. This is another type of the cells, stratified squamous cells only, but with vegetables. And the stratified squamous cells and basement membrane, connective tissue, like that, it is divided into different lobes. So stratification means it is the special type of the structures, so which are having the multifactorial functions. So this is the sectional view of the stratified squamous cell of the vagina, whereas in which the cells, stratified squamous epithelium cells are there, and these cells may be present inside the cell or outside the cell. So stratified cuboidal epithelial cells do contain apical surface, basement membrane, and also a connective tissue. And here is the sectional view of stratified cuboidal epithelial cells as esophageal gland. Once again, this draws some of the controversies. So, stratified columnar epithelium are called as, you can rename them as the virus of the quarreling. That's one of it. And it is present in the several tissues. So, the esophagus do contain stratified columnar epithelial cells, especially in case of the esophageal duct. So here transitional epithelium means they get relaxed and also expand. And they have got the connective tissue under the base and basement membrane and apical surface. Then the sectional view of the transitional epithelium look like this particular photo of especially the urinary bladder. It has got very high stretching capacity, and also the loose connective tissues of the muscles do also have the similar properties. So this is the glandular epithelial cell, and there is a lumen of duct of sweat gland, which is also the nucleus of secretory wall of the sweat gland. And the sweat glands are all belonging to glandular epithelial cells. Here you can see that the sebum secreting cells, secretory portion of the sweat gland, do always contain the lumen of the duct of the sweat gland, and nucleus of secretory cell of the sweat glands is diffused throughout the cell, and the basement membrane is also the connective tissue. And the classical example is the sweat gland. The endocrine glands are belonging to glandular epithelial cells, and endocrine glands do secrete certain hormones like the thyroid hormone, then thyroid follicles, and also the thyroid controlling several receptor cells and the vasoreceptors, they may be activated. So glandular epithelial cells of the endocrine glands do also contain the hormone producing epithelial cells. Very special type of the character of this particular thing. Whereas the other cells do always based on the earnings of the amoeba society of the kings. Connective tissue is also another big tissue. So they do not usually occur in free structures, but as per a very diffuse type of structures and bulky in nature. So the connective tissue of this nerve are exceptional for cartilages, and these has got three basic stages. One is cells, ground substance, and totally subtotal will come. So the extramatric vascular matrix is also required for support. So the program of this one is supporting, then anchoring, and also the anchoring means you will know the specific sites, then somebody tells some stories, and also sometimes the co-passengers, etc. They will also disturb, and at that time we need to talk them properly. So coming to the class of connective tissues are loose connective tissues and areolar condyles and adipose tissue or fat tissues, or an important thing which is stored always in the form of the glucose is the adipose tissue. Then reticular connective tissue is also very special. It contains the huge quantity of the nervous system, not only the nervous system, but it purpose to form the framework of the organs. Then there are once again dense connective tissues are there, and ligaments are also there. So both of these are very extremely strong. Specialized connective tissue, number one is the bone connective tissue, whereas it has got a rock-like hardness. Here is the mucus of that particular chapter is concerned is to such type of the remembering type of the work in which we are all doing the same thing. Then the structure cartilage is another type of the structure, very similar to that of the bone, but it has got more flexibility in terms of the stiffness of the body, and whenever they feel hungry, they will scavenge the different animals which have done. Hyaline tissue is always present in the cartilage. this is made up of the abundant collagen fibers which are hidden by a rubbery matrix with a glossy blue-white appearance. So, for example, the ends of the long bones, whereas the nose, interior portion of the rib, and parts of the larynx and trachea are also the part of this particular type of the cartilage. Then fibrocartilage, the example is pubic symphysis of a bone. Then the meniscus of the knee and intervertebral discs are the example of the fibrocartilage, which do have the cushioning effect to damage, stop the damage in between two bone tissues to avoid the collision. Elastic cartilages are elastic in nature. Epiglottis of the larynx, tip of the nose, external ear, and the auditory tubules or mutations tubules. So this is the structure of that particular type of the elastic cartilage. Then vascular tissue, number one is the plasma, or some of it also called as the liquid portion of the blood, and this only consists of water along with suspended patient proteins and dissolve establishes ions, bonds and molecules and hormones. So the four elements are also solid portions of the food blood of three kinds, namely erythrocytes, leukocytes, and granulocytes. As you know it very well. Neutrophils are the most abundant of the WBCs or white blood cells, and they squeeze through the capillary walls and into the infected tissue, where they kill or invade the engulf the remnants by phagocytosis. Whereas the eosinophils number of increase sharply in certain diseases, especially the parasitic worm disease, and these are cytotoxic in nature, releasing the contents of their granules on the invader. Then basophils increase during the infections, then play an important part in the allergic response. Agranulocytes means which do not have the granules. The example is lymphocytes, P, B and T lymphocytes. Then monocytes functions in the ingestion of the bacteria. That's also called as the macrophages. Macro means big, phages means swallow. Then thrombocytes do always help in clotting mechanism, blood clotting mechanism. So they catalyze varieties of the reactions in the body. Then here you can see some of the structures which are monocytes, neutrophils, then eosinophils, basophil, then protein platelets, macrophage, and also the erythrocytes. That's about the connective tissue for today, and thank you one and four, and have a good day, have a good